holding tight, can you see it? Streaming the truth live from where they decree it. Sylvia speaks, no filter, no buffer. Courtroom drama couldn't get any tougher.
When the gavel's first bang, through the weakness turns tears. Sylvia's lens captures all your hopes and fears. Uploading justice one trial at a time. Tune in every moment, edges sublime.
Welcome to the Sylvia Show, oh yeah. She's got the inside scoop, don't you care? With every verdict, suspense does grow. So hit subscribe, let's start the show. Welcome to the Sylvia Show, oh yeah. She's got the inside scoop, don't you care? With every verdict, the suspense does grow. So hit subscribe, let's start the show. Faces tell stories, the courtroom can't hide. Sylvia's insights cut through the divide. From jury talks to the lawyer's secret. In Sylvia's world, you know you'll need it. Behind the scenes where whispers are loud, her lens reveals the truth in the crowd. Courtroom secrets laid bare to see. Stay curious with Sylvia Spree. Every objection, every sharp retort, Sylvia's there to give you the report. Exclusive footage no one else can snag. From catchy headlines straight to the tag. Welcome to the Sylvia Show, oh yeah. She's got the inside scoop, don't you care? With every verdict, the suspense does grow. So hit subscribe, let's start the show. Welcome to the Sylvia Show, oh yeah. She's got the inside scoop, don't you care? With every verdict, the suspense does grow. So hit subscribe, let's start the show.
Faces tell.
Good evening, everyone. Hey, this is Sylvia. I decided to go through my stash of trial and videos that I have in my repertoire, cases that you guys had not had the opportunity to witness. But the first one is going to be Jackie Johnson. This is when Mr. Steele is doing an examination of Miss Jackie Johnson. For those who don't know who Jackie Johnson is, she was the DA that was in charge of the Ahmaud Arbery case, and she's the one who recused herself from that case because she felt there was a conflict of interest. She had a relationship with the police officers or the law enforcement that was part of the situation where they unalived Ahmaud Arbery. I'm saying all these names, but I wanted to bring out the trial itself because you guys didn't get a chance to see the whole trial. So without further ado, let me go ahead and bring that information to you guys so you can get a chance to see what occurred at that trial. All right, here we go. Okay. And this is her get ready to take the stand during this case. And they see Mr. Steele over here. And I was down there in New Brunswick, and it's a small town where everybody knows everybody, right? So here we go. Without further ado, here we go. Come on now. This thing going to play with me now.
Now, folks, I know what you had for lunch. I do not know how much you had for lunch. But you remember when I told you if you have a problem listening to a witness, you need to hear all this. All right, Mr. Steele.
Jackie, during the or at the break, I'd like to talk to you about a newspaper article in the Brunswick News dated April 2nd, 2020.
Yes.
Your Honor, may I approach?
Yes.
May I approach you?
Yes.
Showing you which you handed to me, actually, but now Mark did.
Yes,
And is that article the way that it was written on or about the second day of April 2020?
yes,
And is it true and correct from the way you understand that article to be?
yes,
And would that article help you orient the date to help understand what a phone call was about?
yes,
Okay, Your Honor, for purposes of demonstrative, or it can go back with the jury, whatever the court says, I move for the admission, either just for the record or for the jury during deliberations of Jackie Johnson. Number.
Any objection to it?
No, Your Honor.
Received.
Okay, so explain to the jurors what happened on Thursday, April 2nd, 2020, with regards to that article, then to trigger some of the phone calls we're going to talk about.
So on April 2nd, the headline in the Brunswick News was Police Report Sheds More Light on the Satilla Shores Shooting. And I knew that Mr. Barnhill, being in Waycross, would not know about this. So I contacted or attempted to make contact with him to let him know that there were details from the police report in the newspaper.
Okay, and then it goes, I think the jurors may have seen it, but Thursday, April 2nd, 2020, to phone records, if we can. And these explain the calls that you already testified to about 8:44 a.m., trying to contact Mr. Barnhill, the father, the elected district attorney, then 10:27 again with no contact, and then him calling you back, the 32-minute call.
Yes.
All right.
Largely the phone, I know it's a long time, but largely we talked about COVID. Mr. Barnhill's office was shut down and mine was not. And we were talking about what we were doing to deal with the jail populations. And he had a lot of his assistants, well, all of his office was working from home. Mine was not. And we discussed that for a while. And of course, I told him about the newspaper article. He also indicated to me that the autopsy had just come out in the death of Mr. Arbery, and that he needed to be able to access that. The way we were set up at the time, only all of our cases would go to the GBI Crime Lab in Savannah, but there was a internet portal, and you could not access crime lab reports unless you were part of that circuit. So because the case happened in Glenn County, Mr. Barnhill could not access the autopsy report that he needed. And so I made a call, or I talked with someone at the office that day about calling the crime lab in Savannah and allowing Mr. Barnhill to have access to the autopsy report.
Did you in any way discuss any of the thought process of District Attorney Barnhill, which way he was leaning, if he was leaning towards the case, any factual, did you try to influence him at all?
No.
Okay. On Friday, let's go to April 3rd. Now, I said that we would discuss everything from February 23rd, 2020 up to April 2nd, 2020, and then April 3rd and beyond. And I'm going to explain why we're doing that April 3rd date. But as of February 23rd, 2020 to April 2nd, 2020, how many communications in any way, in any manner, through third parties, directly, indirectly, email, text message, telephone call, personal contact, text message, social media, did you have with Gregory McMichael?
The two we discussed earlier, on February the 24th and on March 8th, I believe, which was the week after I qualified for election.
How many contacts did you have with Travis McMichael?
I never had any communication with him at all. I didn't know him.
Same question for Mr. District Attorney. I'm excluding the son. I'm excluding your coworker.
Yes.
District Attorney Barnhill, the elected official, from February 23rd through April 2nd, how many communications did you have with him in person, telephone, text message, email, direct message, FaceTime, social media, any type of through third party, any type of communication?
Mr. Barnhill, I contacted him on the 23rd, the original day, and facilitated him meeting with police the following day. And then this April 2nd call, that was the only communication I had with the DA Barnhill. Now, my office, I know at the time, I believe Mr. Barnhill was handling at least one or two other conflict cases in the circuit in Camden County. There may have been communication with an assistant DA like Rocky Bridges down in Camden County with his office, but not with me.
Okay. Did you do anything during those conversations or any other communication through Rocky Bridges or anyone to in any way try to influence Mr. Barnhill?
No,
To curry favor for Greg McMichael, to show favor and affection towards Greg McMichael?
no.
Okay. I want to now talk about going forward. So I'm now moving to April 3rd, okay? You already have admitted into evidence through the son of George Barnhill. So the assistant district attorney who worked for you, Jackie Johnson, exhibit number 5A. Do you remember this coming into evidence in this trial?
Yes.
Okay. And tell us whether that posting had anything to do with the calls dealing with your phone records relevant to this.
Yes, on April 3rd, this Justice League post came out on Facebook and the internet. I was not on the internet. I didn't know what was going on the internet, but Mr. Barnhill, the son, and a lot of the members in my office, younger people, were on Facebook and other social media. And he called to tell me about this. I didn't actually see the post that day, but he told me the substance of what was going on, along with a lot of comments and things going on in response to the post on the internet.
So the comments are not here in Exhibit 5A, but what were you told by Mr. Barnhill Jr., not Junior, George F. Barnhill, the child, the co-worker of yours?
That Bobby Worthy was calling for people to show up at his house in Glen.
It's his house.
Mr. Barnhill, the son, lived in Glen County. He worked for me in Glen County. People believed he was his father, and they were going to show up at his house, and they were going to show up at Mr. McMichael's house.
Okay.
That was the substance of the conversation. I was familiar with Mr. Worthy, the person that did the post. I had some dealings with him previously.
So let's talk about the phone calls that are relevant then, pulled out of the records that are already in evidence. 6:26 p.m., ADA George F. Barnhill, which is the child, the 0740 number, calls you for 4 minutes, 19 seconds. True?
Yes.
And was that the conversation when you just relayed to the jury
Yes.
about his address being posted on the internet
Yes.
and Craig McMichael's address being posted on the internet?
Yes.
All right. Then you call next. When you hang up with that call, it looks like it's almost immediate. You call the acting police chief, Jay Wiggins. Do you recognize that number ending in 5135 as then acting chief of police, Jay Wiggins?
Yes.
And these are on your phone records, right?
Yes.
That are already in evidence.
Yes.
And that's a 13-minute, 50-second call. Tell the jurors what that call's about.
Jay and I discussed the fact that the police report had been deleted. Jay had come into all of this midstream because he was not the chief of police when the murder happened. The police chief was indicted. About a week later, Jay became the acting chief. And so Jay was trying to get up to speed on the case. And I discussed with him that with an ongoing investigation, it was not proper. I didn't feel like it was proper for the police department to be releasing details of an ongoing case. And then I thought that might have incited some of these things that were showing up on the internet. I told him about my experience with Bobby Worthy and what my concerns were. And I told him about the post, and I asked for some protection or some additional security at George Barnhill, the son's residence in Glen County, and the McMichael's residence.
Okay. And then it's followed up by a call from you to George F. Barnhill, the child, the 0740, the assistant district attorney, not the elected, for 26 seconds. And what was that call about?
Jay wanted me to get their addresses so he could send some security to their residences. And so I contacted the son to get his address. I didn't know where he lived. And I also tried to get in touch with Greg McMichael to get his address because I also didn't know his address.
Okay, so it says you tried to contact Greg McMichael, no contact. You just told the substance of your intent to call.
Yes.
And how about the 7:15 call from Greg McMichael to you?
He called me back. I told him there had been some things on the internet, and I had contacted the police chief and asked for there to be some additional patrols at his residence. And I got his address. I think I followed up with a text message to Jay to tell him the addresses.
Okay. Anything where you told Greg McMichael the fix is in, don't worry about anything?
No.
Okay.
I did discuss with the son, George Barnhill. He told me his father was getting out of the case. At that point, I believed it was as a result of these threats, and we didn't discuss that any further.
Okay. I'd like to go to Monday, April 6th, 2020. Phone calls. Do you remember this date by any chance?
Yes, so April the 3rd was the day that Mr. Barnhill, the district attorney, wrote that letter to Tom Jump in the Glenn County Police Department saying that he was getting off the case and that he had an opinion of self-defense. That letter had been copied to my email. I actually read it on Monday morning when I got to the office.
And when you say Monday morning, what's the date?
April the 6th. I was at my office in Woodbine. I lived in Woodbine at the time. And so I printed out the letter in my office in Woodbine and I looked at the letter. And as a result of reading the letter, I called the DA Barnhill about the letter.
Okay. I'm going to ask you a couple of questions. Your Honor, may I approach the exhibits? They're on your bench.
Yeah.
In front of your bench. Inquire with the clerk, Your Honor.
Sure.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'd like to show you what's already been marked. Kevin says States Exhibit number 5. May I approach, Your Honor? May I approach you?
Yes.
This is already in evidence.
Yes.
Is that the letter that you're referring to? That was sent by the elected district attorney, George E. Barnhill, to Glenn County Police Department, Officer Tom Jump.
Yes, I was looking for a date on it. I don't know that I see a date on it, but it was sent on April the 3rd.
Okay. And that's the letter you read on April the 6th.
Yes.
April 3rd is a Friday, April the 6th, Monday is what your memory is. Okay. And just to go backwards, the Satilla Shores article about the shooting, Brunswick News, April 2nd, that's in front of you as well?
Yes, and Mr. Barnhill indicates in the letter that the autopsy report had come out on the first day of April.
Okay. And in the newspaper article of April 2nd, the Brunswick newspaper article that you referred to already as Jackie Johnson number 9, I believe. Is that,
Yes.
in that article, does it have, now we know false information, but from the police report that Ahmaud Arbery was a burglar in progress, et cetera?
says the McMichael men and others were fed up with burglaries and auto break-ins by the time the fateful February afternoon unfolded, the police report indicated. And then it talks about McMichael saying he saw Arbery begin to violently attack Travis, and the two men started fighting over a shotgun. And it talks about some prior arrest record of Mr. Arbery.
Okay.
It does talk about them and Michael's chasing down Mr. Arbery.
Did you have anything to do with releasing that police report?
No, I
Do you
didn't.
have anything to do with writing the contents of that police report?
No.
Now let's go back to where we were on the phone records. And this is going to be the same day, April 6th, that Monday, when you read that letter that George E. Barnhill wrote to Mr. Tom Jump. And to summarize, at 9:14 that morning, you were calling George E. Barnhill the elected official.
Yes.
True? And is that the top of the conversation when you already told the ladies and gentlemen of the jury?
I didn't understand why George had written a letter on the case, giving an opinion that he was conflicting out on. He indicated, or I learned that Tom Jump, who was a captain at the Glenn County Police Department, actually requested him to write the letter. And he also, based on my reading of the letter and speaking with him on the phone, he discussed the mom and meeting with the mom, her wanting him off the case, and Bobby Worthy. In my mind, I don't know that there was a connection between Bobby Worthy and the mom, but based on the letter and my conversation with George, I thought that was a possibility.
And when you say the mom, you're talking about Mr. Ahmaud Arbery's mother?
Yes.
Okay. The young lady who's in the courtroom who testified earlier?
Yes.
All right. Then 9:20 a.m., after speaking with George E. Barnhill, you were calling George F. Barnhill but could not contact. Then George F. Barnhill contacts you back 20 minutes later for 2 minutes, 21 seconds. What was the point of that conversation?
All of the calls on that morning, April 6th, that was the Monday morning after the post had happened that Friday. And I had asked Jay Wiggins to send some additional patrol out that weekend. I had also gotten some additional text from George Barnhill, the son, over the weekend regarding things that had been posted online. And so I contacted the son, as well as the chief of police, as well as Greg McMichael, doing follow-up from the previous call I had made that Friday, making sure that there had been no incidents over the weekend.
And is that the call from you at 11:05 to Greg McMichael? 9 minutes. All right.
Yes.
Now, what else happened shortly after the call with Greg McMichael ended on Monday, the 6th day of April, 2020 that you did?
Mr. Marcus Arbery, who was the father of Ahmaud Arbery, had come to my office early on around March the 4th. He had come with Gary Arbery, who was the uncle, and he had come with a man by the name of Gary Cook. Gary Cook had I knew him, and people in my office knew him, and he had brought him to our office. And they were not getting any information. I knew that based on speaking with them, and we reached out. I had someone reach out. I did leave out one contact with Mr. Barnhill's office. This was March the 4th. We reached out to the victim advocate in George Barnhill's office, and I reached out to him to say the father of Mr. Arbery doesn't have any information, and he's showing up at our office. He needs to know what's going on. So I didn't want to meet with Mr. Arbery without letting Mr. Barnhill's office know, since they had the case. And we met with them, myself. Liberty Stewart was in the meeting, I believe, and Mr. Arbery, his brother, Gary, and Gary Cook were in the meeting. And they had questions. They didn't know anything. Their son was dead. It had been a week. They had had no contact from anyone. And I gathered in the meeting that Ms. Cooper Jones was not sharing any information with them. And I assured them that I would get all of their information in Mr. Barnhill's office. And so we met with them and I explained to them how the case would basically progress and that our office wouldn't be involved. When the letter came out and I saw that self-defense letter, and after I spoke with George Barnhill, the district attorney, and I knew that the Glenn County Police had requested that he write that letter, I expected that that letter was going to be leaked based on what had happened with the police report from the week before and based on what was going on with the it was kind of flaming up on the internet at this point. And understandably so, a lot of people were questioning why there had not been any charges filed or no arrest. And the Glenn County Police Department was looking for some cover at this point. And I expected, based on getting that probably Mr. Arbery, Marcus Arbery, would probably learn this information and be upset about it over the internet. And I didn't want
I
that.
object at this point to speculation. Don't speculate. Just tell us what you know, please.
So I contacted, I had Liberty Stewart or Mark Spalding, someone in my office, reach out to Mr. Gary Cook to get in touch with Marcus and his brother again and ask them to come back to the office so I could let them know what was going on with the case.
That would be the second contact with Mr. Arbery's father and uncle.
That was the second time I met with them. They came to our office the first time. The second time was on April 6th, and that was me contacting them.
Okay. All right. The first time would be March 4th, about 10 days after the murder of their
Yes,
son, and then April 6th. True?
yes.
All right. Going now to Tuesday, April 7th. Do you remember there being a post that day?
Yes.
Receiving knowledge of it? And it's already in evidence, Your Honor. It's Jackie Johnson, Exhibit 5B, as in Barry. And who sent you this? Or had you learned of this?
The pictures of me and the son, George Barnhill, the son, he told me about it.
Okay. What did you do when you learned about this posting from the son, Assistant District Attorney Barnhill?
I did not do anything additional that day. I had already contacted Jay Wiggins and made him aware of what was going on.
Okay. And Jay Wiggins, the acting police department, Glenn County Police.
Yes.
Okay. Next date would be Monday, April 13th.
Yes.
What significant happened?
There were some, I had a relationship with Mark Baker. He was the pastor of Greater Works Church here in Brunswick. He contacted either me directly or someone in my office and wanted to come meet about the case and talk about their concerns. He came, he brought with him Mr. John Perry, who was also a pastor, and I believe at that time was the president of the local NAACP. Mayor Cornell Harvey, Brunswick mayor at the time, came, and Cedric King, who was a deacon in the Greater Works Church, and I think at the time was also running for state senate. The four of them came and met with myself and Jay Wiggins and had some concerns about what was going on with the case.
And what did you do based upon that meeting? What, if anything?
Jay Wiggins and I agreed, based on our meeting with the pastors, that we would get as much information out about the case to educate the public about what was going on. At this point, the case was in limbo because Mr. Barnhill had conflicted out after he wrote that letter. And this would have been April the 13th, which was a Monday. The Attorney General still had not appointed a new district attorney to handle the case. So it had been about a week and the case was just sitting out there. I couldn't touch it because my office was recused. Mr. Barnhill's office was now recused. And all of this was going on the internet, and the pastors wanted Jay and I to get as much information as we could out to the public because they felt like outside sources were going to come into the community and they were intent on doing violence.
What did you do, if anything, the next day with Jay Wiggins, the chief of Galena County Police Department, acting?
After I left the meeting with, and it was COVID, we were over in the jury assembly room, which is the biggest room here at the courthouse, and we were all in opposite corners of that room trying to have a meeting. And I left the meeting, and when I came up to my office on the third floor, I found out that we had just gotten a letter of appointment appointing Tom Durden. Tom Durden was the DA in the Atlantic Circuit, which is the next circuit up. He was in Hinesville, to the case.
Did you do any press?
I drafted a press release, and Jay and I emailed it back and forth. It was a joint press release between the two of us, and we sent it out on the following day. But before I sent it out, I made contact with Tom Durden, the DA in the Atlantic Circuit, and I sent him a copy of the press release. And I wanted to make sure that he was okay, that I wasn't releasing any information or anything that he thought would be detrimental to the case. I also explained a little bit about what was going on in the community to Tom Durden, and his office, of course, was shut down at the time. Nobody was there. And I told him it's an important case. If they could start working on it, if we could get it to him, we wanted to be able to do that so that he could look at it as soon as he could. And he, of course, said that he would.
Okay. Thursday, April 16th, 2020. Phone records show that at 8:02 p.m., Greg McMichael calls you with no contact. Saturday, April 18th. I'm sorry?
Can we back up a second? The press release on the 14th, I'm not sure if that's in evidence. Is that in evidence?
I don't think so.
Okay, all right.
The joint press release between you
Yes,
and
myself and Jay Wiggins, yes.
that was approved by Tom Durden.
Yes.
Okay. But you did that, you said, you made it clear to the jury at the behest of the
That happened
community.
on April the 14th, yes.
You did that at the behest of the community.
Yes, I think it references in the press release that we had previously met the day before with the pastors.
Okay. So Thursday, April 16th, 2020, phone records, your phone records, Greg McMichael's calling you, no contact, meaning you didn't speak with him.
Right, I didn't.
Okay, Saturday, April 18th, 2020, 8:05, that's wrong, 8:25 p.m., Greg McMichael's calling you again, you don't answer the phone.
Right.
Sunday, April 19th, 2020, it's 11:13 a.m. You call Greg McMichael. Tell the ladies and gentlemen, jury, why you called and what that 9-minute, 51-second conversation entailed.
That was Sunday. It was an Easter, and I was, we had a church service. Nobody could go to church, and I was looking back through my phone at my home, and I saw that he had been trying to get in touch with me, and I also saw a text message from George Barnhill, the son, had been sent to my phone, which I believe may be in evidence, on the 17th. And as a result of seeing that there was something else that had been posted online and that he had called me, I assumed it had something to do with that, and I returned his call.
Okay, and when you say something posted online, a potential threat to Greg McMichael?
No, this was something that referenced Tom Durden's office in the post, and it was a text message. I believe it's in evidence.
Okay, is that
It was on April the 17th. That was a Friday.
okay? It's Jackie Johnson, exhibit number 5C. If we can show that, it's already in evidence, Your Honor, if that's okay. You see at the top, it says text message, April 17, 2020, 3:23 p.m.
Yes, that was the text message that I saw on my phone that prompted me to return Mr. McMichael's phone calls.
And who sent you that text message? I know it's already in evidence, the ladies and gentlemen jury know it's
George Barnhill, the son that worked in my office.
okay. And that is part of the call that you did on April 19th?
That's why I returned his call, yes.
All right, let's go to Monday, April 20th, 2020, 12:50 in the afternoon. Your phone records indicate you called Jay Wiggins, the 5135 number, 5 minutes, 21 seconds. Tell the ladies and gentlemen, Joy, orient them to what was going on in that call.
I was following up from Greg McMichael's call the previous day on that Sunday about the continued state. It was a continued state of, I don't know the word I'm looking for, but it was starting to boil over at this point. It had been a week since we met with the pastors, and they had come to us and told us they were concerned. There were continued posts. We had already gotten the file up to Tom Durden. I talked with him about what had been posted and about Greg McMichael's phone call that he had concerns. And we, at that point, Jay and I were pretty much at the mercy of waiting on Tom Durden to make a decision on this case, because I couldn't do anything with the case. It had to take its course. So we were discussing about putting out as much information as we could to the public so that people would be patient and let the process work.
Okay.
At this point, and I'll go ahead and clarify, I was still under the impression, as was, I believe, Jay Wiggins, based on what we knew about the case, that this was some type of self-defense burglary. I never saw any evidence, had not looked at anything. I know that Jay, one of the things that Jay spoke with the pastors about on April the 13th when we met with them, is that he was going to have someone internally review the case inside the police department to make sure that the police had been doing what they were supposed to do. They had collected the evidence that everything was proper police procedures were being followed. Because I think Jay, when he came into it, because he wasn't there at the time and he started getting these questions, he felt like as the new chief, he needed to try and look into it and make sure everything was done right. And he and I had discussed that. And at this point, I didn't really ask him what his findings were or where he was in that. But at this point, I still felt like this was based on what I knew. And certainly I had looked at that letter Mr. Barnhill had sent. And based on everything I was hearing from the police, hey, this is going to be a clear self-defense. There's this video and it shows self-defense.
Okay.
I didn't know.
So that explains the call on April 20th and your mindset at that time. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Let's go to Friday, April 24th, 2020. 2:56 in the afternoon, Greg McMichael calls you. You do not answer the phone. True?
That's correct.
And then on Sunday, April 26th, same thing, 6:40 p.m., Greg McMichael calls your phone. You do not speak with him. Is that true?
Yes.
Monday, April 27th, 2020, you then call Greg McMichael, 7:21 p.m., 11 minutes, 35 seconds. Tell the ladies and gentlemen, jury, what is going on there.
There's another text message that's in evidence that I got from George Barnhill, the son that worked for me at the time, where a New York Times article came out, I believe on the 26th, and it had some details about the case and asking legitimate questions, I guess, based on what they had in there about why there had not been an arrest. And it was being shared online and groups were forming on Facebook, groups with a mission to come and affect a citizen's arrest on the McMichaels by whatever means might be necessary. And those were the type of things that were circulating as a result of the New York Times article.
And the jurors already saw the post introduced through the testimony of the son, George F. Barnhill. So they were aware of that, okay?
That was the phone call follow-up about what was going. At this point, it was boiling over in the Satilla Shores neighborhood.
Let's go to Wednesday, April 29, 2020, phone records. You were calling George E. Barnhill, that's the elected district attorney, at 2:09, 8 minutes, 21 seconds. Can you explain this?
The district attorney, George Barnhill, contacted my office and wanted to speak to me and said that it was urgent and I couldn't speak with him that moment. I was going down to a meeting over in Judge Scarlett's office. And so when I went down to Judge Scarlett's office, I returned his call. And it was about a very specific threat regarding the Satilla Shores neighborhood and the McMichaels. The DA Barnhill's office was closed during this time, and he had gone in to get some files, and someone had left this message. And it was very specific toward the Satilla Shores neighborhood and Greg McMichael. And as a result of that, I left the meeting with Judge Scarlett and some of the other judges, and I came back upstairs. I had 2 agents with the GBI in my office, and we were dealing with another case. And we called Jay Wiggins and discussed what was going on with the threats, because at this point, the threats were coming into the Glenn County Police, as well as the McMichaels, as well as George Barnhill, as well as other members in law enforcement. So we discussed on the phone that day between the GBI and the Glenn County Police what agency was going to handle all these threats. Glenn County, up to this point, I think, had been trying to handle them, and it had kind of gotten to be too much. So based on that, Jay Wiggins and I requested that the GBI start working the threats case.
Who was assigned, if anyone, from the GBI to look into the threats case?
Larry Kelly is a GBI agent.
He was assigned?
He was assigned to begin working on the threats cases.
Okay. And the threats case is different, obviously, than the case you were accused from. True?
Yes, this was a new case about something going on in my circuit.
Community.
Yes.
Okay. Now, same question I asked you before. Did you at any time influence the investigation into the murder of Ahmaud Arbery in any way?
I had not looked at any evidence. My only interest was that with everything going on, that the case, the process be moving along, be working.
But did you influence it in any way?
No.
Did you show any favor or affection towards Greg McMichael or his family?
No.
Did you try to hurt the memory or the family of Ahmaud Arbery?
No. Going back to my meeting with Mr. Marcus Arbery on the 6th when the letter came out, I explained to him, because I felt like this letter was going to be leaked, that if they saw anything about it being self-defense online, it did not mean anything, because the case was going to have to go to a new DA, and it didn't matter what Mr. Barnhill had said or what his opinion was. It was basically meaningless, and the new DA would make the decision about what would happen with the case. I wanted them to understand that it was going to get a new look, and that the process at some point, they would have some input and be advised of the process by someone independent of Mr. Barnhill.
The next day is April 30th, 2020, according to phone records at 6:32 p.m. You speak, or you've contact your phone's contact Greg McMichael for 21 minutes. Tell the ladies and gentlemen jury, if you remember, what this was about.
I was on my way. We had court the next day. I had to be up in Appleton or Jeff Davis County, and it's a long drive up that way, and I was returning phone calls. And I thought about the fact that Mr. Barnhill, I was actually cutting through his circuit in his counties, had called me about the specific threat regarding Mr. McMichael. And I felt like I needed to follow up and make sure that someone from law enforcement had been to see him and was actually working on the threats case that I had reported to the GBI the previous day. Okay.
Did any communication go up at that time about Mr. McMichael asked you questions? You referred him to get a lawyer.
It was chaos in the Satilla Shores neighborhood at this point. I knew it based on what Mr. McMichael was telling me was going on out there. And I knew it based on what I was getting from the Glenn County Police. And then I was here at the courthouse with the sheriff, Jump, and he was sending deputies out into that neighborhood in addition to what was going on with the Glenn County Police. I had information that Greg McMichael had actually been sitting out in front of his house in his driveway with all of this going on in that neighborhood. And I felt like this was a powder keg. And to the extent that I had any influence on him, I felt like he needed to not be in his driveway inciting the violence. And I had advised him, I think back when the New York Times, back on the at that point, all of this was going on. At that point, it was threats coming into Travis McMichael's job and things on the internet. I had talked with him about not being on the internet because, again, I was not on Facebook, but I was.
Advise him to get a lawyer?
I advised him after the New York Times article came out that he needed to speak with a lawyer, and the lawyer needed to do whatever speaking for him was going to be done. And I also told him that again on that day. And it's a long conversation, but most of it was me listening to what was going on in that neighborhood.
Okay, that's April 30th?
Yes, that was Wednesday, I believe, Thursday.
All right, let's go to the next day, Friday, May 1, 2020. Do you remember anything happening that day? And it's already admitted into evidence, Jackie Johnson, exhibit number 5E.
There were Justice League posts. There were also, we have the county, Glenn County has a countywide email, and the sheriff, myself, Jay Wiggins, a lot of law enforcement, the 911 center, that's the way they communicate if there's any type of emergency, something going on, hurricane or anything in the county. And in addition to this coming out that day, the Justice League, I was getting information through that about ongoing threats and things coming in with respect to my office and with respect to the Satilla Shores neighborhood, with respect to the Glenn County Police. And so on May the 1st, I had communications through that, and I think maybe with the sheriff about a tactical meeting that the chief of police had set up on Monday, May the 4th, where law enforcement was going to get together and determine what we were going to do about upcoming threats of violence and marches going on in the Satilla Shores neighborhood and here in Brunswick.
And if you blow this up, Jackie Johnson exhibit 5E, and the scroll down, do you see where in that paragraph, I don't know if the jurors can see it, but in the second to last line, if he fails to arrest them, then we will perfect a legal citizen's arrest to bring them to justice. Did you see that?
Yes.
Okay. All right, let's go then to the next day. That's Friday, May 1.
The voicemail on my phone that he left, I never listened to that until much later.
Okay, and that's the voicemail that you're referring to on May 1, 6:49 p.m.?
Yes.
Okay. Going to Saturday now. It's a Saturday, May 2nd, 2020. Do you see at 9:14 a.m., Jay Wiggins, the acting chief of police, calls you 12 minutes?
Yes.
And what's that about, just generally? Same thing?
I had I forwarded him a text message of what I was receiving text messages of things posted online from George Barnhill that worked for me. And so I forwarded those to the police chief, and he called me back and we discussed basically what we could do to kind of contain things in the community until something could happen on the case. Tom Durden had it at this point. I had contacted Tom Durden and I knew that he was working on the case. At this point, as a result of my conversation with Jay, I reached out to who I knew in the FBI, our local agent, and he put me in touch with somebody, I believe, out of Savannah with the FBI. And then at some point, I spoke with Bobby Christine, who was the U.S. attorney at the time that morning. This was a Saturday morning, about what we expected was coming in Brunswick and any help that we could get from the feds on the case.
You were seeking assistance from federal authorities?
Yes, not on the threats case, but on something as far as progress, someone looking at the underlying investigation with respect to the shooting of Mr. Arbery and making a determination as to whether or not this is a criminal case and it moving forward, or this is a self-defense. And if it was self-defense, get that information out to the public.
So you were trying to have other authorities look at whether
Yes.
Mr. Ahmaud Arbery was murdered?
Yes.
Okay, going to the next issue, which is a Sunday. Do you remember Tom Durden calling you 5 minutes, 45 seconds, 5:28 p.m. And again at 5:34 for another 1 minute, 12 seconds. Can you explain to the jurors if you remember what that was about?
The pastors I had mentioned earlier had been reaching out to me and other people in our office. They wanted me to get Tom Durden down here to the meeting on Monday, the tactical meeting, so that they could question him about his investigation with what was going on with the case he had with respect to Mr. Arbery's death. And I had initially reached out to Tom and then followed back up with Tom because I didn't think, and I told the community leaders this on that Monday, I basically stood in for him that he did not need to be coming down to a meeting where it would appear that the community was putting pressure on him to do anything with respect to a case. He needed to make his own determination. And he told me at that point that he actually was planning on taking this case to the grand jury.
Okay.
At this point, we
And those what those calls are about?
we were trying to get out information about him, his intentions, which were to take this to a grand jury.
Just to try to give community information.
Yes, and I actually spoke with some of the law enforcement community leaders that Monday at the meeting at the police department. We were in the 911 center, and
So let's talk about that. It's Monday, May 4th, 2020.
yes,
Okay, and you're talking about the community meeting?
yes.
All right, tell the jurors.
I gave that information that I had spoken with Tom, that Tom had intentions of taking this to a grand jury, and I'd asked him to draft a press release stating what his intentions were with that. And I followed back up with him that Monday night, about getting that press release out.
Later that Monday, May 4th, 2020, in the evening hours, did you reach out to the Attorney General of the state of Georgia, Christopher Carr?
Yes, this was the evening after those meetings, yes.
Okay, and according to phone records, Mr. Carr, Attorney General Carr, called you back at 7:32 p.m., 8-minute 44-second.
Yes.
What did you tell Mr. Carr? What were you asking?
I recapped him on everything we were dealing with down here. I did not have a relationship with him. I had not had his cell phone. I'd had to call someone and get in touch with him, and they had him call me back. But based on my meeting with the community leaders, and when I say that, there were county commissioners, there were pastors, there were police, there were probation officers, there were feds. Jeff Roberts from the FBI had actually come to that meeting. GBI agents were there. It was everybody that felt like they had an ability to do anything was there. And they had asked me to reach out to the Attorney General. And that's why I did. And I advised him of what was going on and what could his office do, to get involved and help us with the case.
And was Mr. Attorney General Carr of help?
No.
I'd like to go to Tuesday, May 5, 2020. What significant happened that day that you recall to this day?
The video was released and I saw it for the first time on television.
All right. And when you say the video, what video are you talking about?
Murder. Mr. Arbery.
Did you ever see that video before?
No.
Before seeing that video, what did you believe did you believe Mr. Ahmaud Arbery was a perpetrator?
It's everything I had been told. That's what I believed, yes.
Watching that video, did you believe that Mr. Ahmaud Arbery is a perpetrator?
No, it looked like he was murdered to me.
What, if anything, did you do after watching that video?
I had been in contact with the GBI about getting involved in the case, and they had indicated to me that they would have to be requested by Mr. Durden. And at some point later that day, I believe, or maybe the next morning, Stacy Carson called me. She was the GBI agent in charge at the time and told me that they had been requested to work the case. And I gave her some directions she was on her way to Tom Durden's office to pick up the file. His office was closed down and we had previously delivered the file up there. So she was on her way to get that. And in the course of giving her directions to his office in Hinesville, or how to get in, I told her that based on what I had seen, I had some messages that Mr. McMichael had left on my phone, and I knew that they were working the case now that I needed to turn over to them.
Why did you turn over voice messages from Greg McMichael to the GBI? Did you think it would help there in the investigation to prosecute him?
I knew that at this point he was a murder suspect, and I knew that this was taking a course where any information I had in my office or on my phone or anyone else had in these communications, it needed to be turned over to them.
Did you have those voice messages that were still on your phone turned over to the GBI so they could use it if they decide to use it in their case to make an arrest against Mr.
Yes.
Travis McMichael, Mr. Gregory McMichael, whomever?
I asked one of my investigators, the second investigator in my office at the time, his name was David Moore. I asked him to make a copy of what I had. I also asked him to check with Mark Spalding because I knew that Craig McMichael, in the course of all these threats, had been calling Mark Spalding's phone when he couldn't get in touch with me. And I asked David to make a copy of those. And I also got a copy of his personnel file from my office, Greg
Whose
McMichael.
personnel file?
Greg McMichael's personnel file, and provided both of those, both the phone messages and the personnel file of Greg McMichael to the GBI.
So they could use to prosecute if they saw
Yes,
fit?
it was the day after, or maybe the next day, May 7th, that I provided those to the GBI.
Within 48 hours of seeing that video, you were providing the GBI evidence to be used if they wanted to use it against Gregory McMichael.
Yes.
What agent, if you know, received that personnel file of Greg McMichael and the voice messages from your cell phone?
We gave them to Larry Kelly.
Okay. And the jurors heard his name earlier. That's a gentleman who was working what you've called the threats case?
He was working the threats case. He had been working the threats case for about a week when the video came out.
I'd like to go back to Tuesday, May 5, 2020, when the video of the murder of Ahmaud Arbery was released. That's the first time you ever saw it?
Yes.
Is that when you saw it on the news, you said?
Yes.
That's when it was released in social media for all of us to see.
Yes.
You get a call that day, according to phone records, 7:51 p.m. from Greg McMichael. You do not answer the call. Do you ever speak with Greg McMichael thereafter?
No.
Do you speak with him on that day after watching the video?
No.
Have you had any contact with him through third party, directly, email, FaceTime, text message, social media, anything?
No.
We did it with Greg McMichael from February 23rd to April 2nd. Now I want to do it all the way until his arrest. Remember, his arrest was and his son on Thursday, May 7, 2020?
Yes.
In summary, you spoke with Greg McMichael after the murder of Ahmaud Arbery on Monday evening, February 24th, 2020. Is that what you testified?
Yes.
March 8th, about the election that you were
Yes.
having, 2020.
Yes.
That's 2. April 3rd, about the Justice League post.
Yes.
April 6th, 2020, about the letter that Mr. Barnhill wrote saying it's self-defense.
Yes.
April 19th, 2020, after the text message of a potential threat.
Yes.
April 28th, the New York Times article that came out 2 days before.
Yes.
That's 6. April 30th, about the threat that George Barnhill told you he thought it was a legitimate threat, and you warned Greg McMichael.
Yes.
Any other communication besides those 7 times from the date of Ahmaud Arbery's murder to today with Greg McMichael?
No.
For George Barnhill, the district attorney who took over the case,
Yes.
you speak with him on February 23rd, that Sunday evening, the murder of Ahmaud Arbery date.
Yes.
You ask him to answer police questions.
Yes.
February 24th, which is a Monday, just to tell him and tell the Glenn County Police Department he's on his way and where he goes.
Yes.
April 2nd,
That was the day the news article came out. Yes.
and that's Jackie Johnson, exhibit number 9.
Yes.
April 6th, after you read the George Barnhill, quote, self-defense letter to Tom Jump, asking, why would you do this? And recusing.
Yes.
And April 29th, when he told you about the threat that he had in his office machine that he thought was strong against Greg McMichael.
Yes.
Those 5 contacts,
Yes.
nothing else.
After all of this happened on May 7th, the McMichaels were arrested. On May 8th, Commissioners Booker and Commissioner Peter Murphy told the newspaper that I had blocked the arrest of the McMichaels. And it picked up on national news, and my face was up there along with the McMichaels as being the person that had blocked them.
Is that true?
No.
Did you say the same thing on May 11th,
So
2020, that the jurors heard on that interview?
that was on that Monday, but George, after that had come out on the television, George sent me a text basically because he knew, and I sent him a text and I said, I'm sorry about all this, George, because at this point, it was not just me, it was him, it was his son. And I think I might have talked with him that Saturday about how horrible all of this was for everybody, and I felt awful about it.
How about for Mr. Mott Aubrey's family?
I felt awful for them. I saw Miss Aubrey. After the video came out, I was walking out of the courthouse, and Miss Aubrey came by, Miss Cooper Jones, and she called my name. I didn't know her before. I had seen her on television, and I walked over and to her, and she told me, she said, I'm a Mod's.
I'd like to show you.
She said, I'm a Mod's mother. And I grabbed her hand and I said, I'm so sorry about your son, because she believes that I did all this.
I want to show you what I've marked as Jackie Johnson exhibit number 10 and 11. May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
May I approach you? Do me a favor, take a look at both of those.
Yes.
We'll do them one at a time, but it will be the same exact questions. On Jackie Johnson exhibit number 10, do you recognize that document?
Yes.
And is that document true and accurate for what it depicts and purports to be?
Yes.
Any deletions or changes in any way in that document that you could tell?
No.
I'm going to ask you the same questions for Jackie Johnson exhibit number 11, correct?
Yes.
Does that document accurately reflect what it purports to encompass?
Yes.
Any changes or deletions or modifications to your knowledge?
No.
Your Honor, I move for the admission of Jackie Johnson exhibit both number 10 and 11 as certified copies from the clerk's office in Camden County, Your Honor.
Any objection? No objection. Received.
Thank you, Your Honor. Miss, may we display it on the screen? This is Jackie Johnson exhibit number 10. Your Honor, it's a certified copy. Is that your name on the left-hand column, lower portion of that screen?
Yes.
And is this the oath, if you scroll down, Mr. Kokumo, of the district attorney that you took before the probate court in 2012?
Yes.
If you could scroll down, Mr. Kokumo. December 28, 2012, is that your signature?
Yes.
And that is the notarization?
Yes.
And then it's a certified copy sealed actually today from the Camden County Clerk's office, right?
Yes.
Did you in any way, did you hear the questions of the Honorable Judge Kelly from the Honorable Attorney General Fowler as we sat in this courtroom about maybe you didn't take an oath in 2012?
I took an oath.
Okay. So the oath in the indictment of 2010, was that inapplicable in 2020 on the allegations of the grand jury through the Attorney General's office?
It had expired.
I'd like to show you, and with the court's permission, display Jackie Johnson exhibit number 11. You see in Camden County, your name is typed in?
Yes.
And is this the district attorney oath that you took? And if Mr. Kokumo can scroll down, this is now December 30th of 2016. Is that now another oath that you took? And was this oath also there notarized and sworn to by the probate judge?
Yes, that oath was my last oath. It expired on the last day of 2020.
This is the oath that you would have been under on around February 23rd, 2020
Yes.
in count one of the indictment.
Yes.
But the indictment alleges you realize August 12th of 2010. Your Honor, may I have 1 second?
Yes.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Mr. Fowler?
Thank you, Judge. I want to start with some things that we can agree on. We can agree that at the time of Ahmaud Arbery's murder, you were the district attorney of the Brunswick Judicial Circuit, correct?
Yes.
Okay. That encompasses Glenn County, correct?
Yes.
Camden County,
Yes.
Wayne County, Jeff Davis County.
Yes.
All right. Now,
Also Appling.
also Appling County. Now, District Attorney Barnhill was the district attorney of the Waycross Judicial Circuit at the time of Ahmaud Arbery's murder, correct?
Yes.
Now, we can also agree that the murder of Ahmaud Arbery was on February 23rd of 2020.
Yes.
And at that time, you were the district attorney here in Glenn County.
I was.
All right, and George Barnhill was the district attorney in Wayne County, or I'm sorry, in Waycross Judicial Circuit.
Yes.
All right. On that same day, the murder of Ahmaud Arbery, Greg McMichael left you a voicemail on your phone.
Yes.
And you've told this jury that you did not listen to that voicemail for a while. Is that correct?
Yes.
But nevertheless, that morning, you indicated you had been preparing for grand jury, or you had been over towards the grand jury room, kind of involved in the processes going over there, correct?
Talking about on Sunday or Monday?
Monday.
On Monday, I was here at the courthouse. We had the grand jury in here. I was on the third floor in my office.
Now, the voicemail that Mr. McMichael left you, you would describe it as urgent, would you not?
I assumed at the time that Sunday, after immediately I heard from Bill Darris after he called, Mr. McMichael called my phone and I didn't pick up. I heard from Bill Darris immediately and I assumed it had something to do with him being involved in the shooting in his neighborhood, but I didn't listen to it.
Okay. And do you remember approximately what time Bill Darris let you know about the shooting?
He called me on Sunday, the 23rd, around 2:14 was when Greg McMichael left that voicemail. He called me shortly thereafter, maybe 2:17, 2:18. Bill called me and told me what was going on.
Somewhere within a couple minutes?
Yes.
And at that point, did you have any knowledge whatsoever as to whether that may have been self-defense or not?
I did not, no.
And how long at that point had Greg McMichael been your chief investigator?
Greg McMichael was not my chief investigator at the time of the shooting. Bill Darris was the chief investigator. He was the one that called me. Greg McMichael retired May of 2019, which would have been several months before all of this happened. He had not been in the office.
Now, but prior to that, prior to his retirement, how long had he been your chief investigator at the DA's office?
He began working for Glenn Thomas sometime in the 90s. Stephen Kelly, the judge Stephen Kelly became the district attorney in 1996. So he was Stephen Kelly's chief investigator. And I became the district attorney in 2010, and he became my chief investigator in 2010. And it was really, with respect to who was the chief investigator, it was really seniority. At the time I became district attorney, Greg was had been there the longest. The other investigator was Mark Melton, who had come more recently around mid 2005, 2008, somewhere in there. Mark Melton was our second investigator, and he actually, he's the sheriff now up in Appleton County, but at the time he was doing the upper part of the circuit, Appleton, Jeff Davis, and Wayne County. And so we had Greg McMichael down here as the chief investigator and Mark Melton up in those counties, and it was mainly because of seniority. That title was seniority.
So the answer to my question is 8 years approximately that he was your chief investigator.
Yes.
All right. And prior to that, as you were an assistant district attorney under Stephen Kelly, how long was he an investigator at the DA's office while you were working there?
I started working for Stephen Kelly in 1998. I had no interaction early on with him, but when I came to the office in Brunswick, he was the chief investigator at that time. So around 1998, 1999, he was chief investigator then.
All right. So we can probably agree that you knew him for on or off somewhere between 17 to 20 years. And in the latter of those years, you knew him as your chief investigator for about 8 years. Is that right?
That's correct, yes.
Okay. And then the morning of the shooting, you heard from Bill Darris that he had been involved in a shooting. Is that fair?
No, the morning of the shooting, this happened in the afternoon. I believe it was sometime around 1:15 in the afternoon. Around 2:14, 15 is when he called me, about an hour after the shooting happened. And Bill Darris called me about 2 minutes after he left that voicemail.
Okay. All right. And after working with Greg McMichael for 18 years, 8 years as your chief investigator, and then finding out that he'd been involved in a shooting, knowing you had a voicemail on your phone, you didn't listen to the voicemail.
Yeah. And at this point, I didn't know he had been involved in the shooting. The information I had from Bill was that there had been a shooting in the Satilla Shores area, a burglary. And that was significant to me because down there near I-95, you've got Satilla Shores and you've also got Royal Oaks, and it's right closer to the interstate. And we had worked and had a lot of entering autos and burglaries in those two neighborhoods. So it didn't surprise me that there had been some type of burglary in that neighborhood. I had associated it in my mind at the time. We had some homeless population near the interstate. That had been some of it that we had dealt with over the years in the office, and I had associated it with that at the time, but I didn't know specifically. That was just a connection I made in my mind. But at the time I talked with Bill Darris, we felt like he was some type of witness, or at best a witness. The actual person involved in the shooting was his son, and that's what I understood his role would have been, was some type of witness.
So later on in the day, though, you did speak with Rocky and Liberty, that kind of phone call triangle, and find out that Greg was involved in some way, shape, or form in the shooting, correct?
I learned around 5:35 for the first time that they're saying this is self-defense, and the details regarding home invasion and Travis McMichael confronting or being confronted. At the time, they were saying he was confronted with the shotgun. He had the shotgun, and he being the one that was involved in the shooting, and Greg being there as a witness. That's the information I had at the time. And at the time, I was getting information from Rocky and Liberty. Everything they were telling me was what they knew from the police, and there was an immediacy to it. In other words, in my mind, what I was getting was this happened right there at a home that was being burglarized. There was no chase involved.
And so after you got that information from them, you still hadn't listened to that voicemail from Greg?
No.
All right. So I want to talk a little bit about your relationship with Greg. As the district attorney, it's fair to say that you are in charge of the office of the district attorney, correct?
Yes.
Everyone works for you, right?
Yes.
And since everyone works for you, generally you have hiring and firing power at the district attorney's office, correct?
Yes.
And one of the things at the district attorney's office, if you have assistant district attorneys, which you did, you had assistant district attorneys that work for you, correct?
Yes.
A chief assistant district attorney, those sorts of things.
Yes.
And one of the things that you have to do naturally to work as an assistant district attorney is you have to have, like, say, a bar license, right?
That's correct.
You have to go to law school, become a lawyer.
Yes.
Okay. And one of the things that you have to be a police officer with arrest powers in the state of Georgia is to have post certification, right?
Yes.
All right. In 2014, Greg McMichael lost his post certification, did he not?
He was suspended. Yes.
He was suspended. And when you're suspended from having post certification, you no longer have arrest powers, correct?
Our office didn't have arrest powers to begin with. Some district attorney's office will have investigators, more like police officers. They're more of an investigative unit within the DA's office. Our office never did. We were separate, and we relied on law enforcement to do the arrest. And the only powers that my investigators had were derived from being deputized as the sheriff, which meant that Mr. McMichael and my other investigator, while I was district attorney at the time, would have been Mark Melton, who's now the sheriff up in Appleton County. They were sworn in as deputies by the sheriff. And at the time, this would have been around 2014. I had been DA about 3.5 years, about 3 years. Mr. McMichael came to me and told me that his arrest powers, his post certification, had been suspended. And of course, I was very, as you can imagine, upset about that at the time. He indicated to me that he had not gotten all of his training hours. Every year, as district attorney, you have your assistant DAs and your investigators go to a conference, and they actually have it in the summer over at Jekyll. And that's where everybody gets their continuing education credits for the year. And that's where you get your post-certification credits, and you get recertified with everybody else in the state if you go to the classes. And that had been going on since I had been district attorney. We had all, and had been going on previous to me being district attorney when Stephen was a district attorney. We went over there. What I changed about it is I did a lot of, we had relied a lot on employees to get their information up to Atlanta and get their credits where they have to sign that they went to the classes and pay a fee. We had internalized all of that, and I was sending one check and getting all of the forms into Atlanta once they went to the conference. So everybody in my office I knew was getting all of their hours, the attorneys and the investigators, and we would have had 2 at the time. And so I knew at the time that he had been going to the trainings. I asked Mark Melton, who was my other investigator at the time. Mark had a good relationship at Post because Mark had done a lot of post training, and he put on a lot of classes where officers could get their hours up circuit. And we looked at it, and based on what we could learn, he had been deficient in hours back before my term, and that was catching up with him. And I never received any formal notification from Post that he had been suspended. I know that at the time and it was common, as Judge Kelly told you earlier, we had 9 police departments, 5 sheriff's offices, and 2 GBI agencies, different agencies that we dealt with at the time. And if we got an officer was suspended, they would send us a notification in the mail, and we put that notice up in our office so that if we had cases, everybody in our office would know, the assistant district attorneys, hey, you've got a problem on this case because your officer's lost his certification. They lost their arrest powers. They couldn't do anything. So Mark, I asked to check into it, and he looked at it. And based on what we looked at, we thought that it was legitimate that he did not know that he had lost his certification. His hours, and looking at it, the hours where he was deficient was back in 08, 07, 09. And so as a result of that, I asked Mark what we would have to do or what would have to be done. And Mark said that Mr. McMichael would have to pay money. He would have to go through a process. He would have to ask the Post to reinstate him. He would have to catch up his hours and do all of those things. So at that point, when I found out that he did not have arrest powers, and again, he told me he didn't know, and I felt like based on talking with Mark that was legitimate. I contacted Neil Jump, who was a sheriff at the time, and because Greg McMichael was sworn in under Neil Jump because he deputized him because we didn't have arrest powers. And I let Neil know, and we took away anything that would, and I believe I memoed the file that would allow him to do anything with regarding law enforcement type duties. He was basically suspended from doing any of that stuff, and he had to fix the problem. And that's what he did. And as a result of that, I contacted Post, and I think I wrote a letter up there and asked them to reinstate him once that happened. I did that for him on his behalf. He was, at this point, he started with Glenn County Police, maybe even Brunswick Police before that. At the time, Glenn County had a really good retirement program, and he was trying to get to his retirement. And I was willing to give him a chance to get there. And that's Mr. Bridges talked earlier about there was a big difference in old time investigators than what we expected the new ones to do. He had come in at a time in 1995 when all you did in a district attorney's office was serve subpoenas and get witnesses to court. And he had always been good at doing that.
In your letter to Post dated June 17th of 2014, do you recall writing, "I wanted to thank you for your help in resolving Greg McMichael's issue with Post"?
Can I see that?
Certainly. Does this help refresh your recollection?
Yes. Could I look at it in a moment? Yes, do you want me to read it?
Not out loud, no. When you're finished reading, please look up at me.
Yes, this was June 17th, 2014.
And in this letter, you indicated that Post was very kind to you and Mark Melton when you actually went to visit their offices, correct?
Mark and I met with someone at Post, yes.
All right. And where is Post?
Post is not in Atlanta, but it's somewhere near Atlanta.
And they helped you all through the waiver process you indicated here. Is that correct?
Michael set all of that up, and there was a hearing up there for him to get his certification back. The council was actually comprised of the post council is actually sheriffs and other people from around the state are on the post council. So McMichael had contacted them and they required that he come to Atlanta and appear before the council and request to be reinstated once he had caught up all his hours and paid his fine. So once he did all of that and set all of that up, he let Mark and I know about it. And based on that, Mark and I went to Atlanta and we, I think we watched the post hearing. We talked with someone about the process and that's what happened. They were very nice to us up there. And of course, I told them, which is the same thing I've told you. And what I understood at the time was this a situation where he did not know he was deficient in his hours and that he had been suspended. I was very concerned at the time if he had been out serving subpoenas, driving a police car with no post certification, both for my protection as well as the sheriff's protection, because he was deputized under Neil. And at the time, I was satisfied that he didn't know. And based on my communications and speaking with them in Atlanta, I wanted to make sure that my understanding of that was correct. And when I met with them, that was my understanding, yes.
And the last sentence of the first paragraph is, I appreciate you're willing to meet with us and help us through the waiver process. And when you use the term us, I mean, that's a pronoun that generally includes the speaker, which in this case would be you, right?
The us was me and my employee and my other investigator. So we were all employees of the district attorney's office at the time, or I was the district attorney at the time. So when I say us, that's who I was referring to, yes.
All right. And you wrote, at the council's request, please accept this as a formal letter in support of the council's decision to grant the waiver to Mr. McMichael so that he may continue to serve as an investigator with my office. You wrote that, correct?
If you want to mark that as an exhibit, I'd have to look at it.
Do you not remember?
No, I'd need to look at it again.
Would it help you refresh your recollection if I show it to you?
Well, if you want to enter it in, sure. I mean, or I can read it. It doesn't matter, but.
You read it? So you can take a look here if you need to refresh your recollection again.
Okay,
You
yes,
see that?
yes.
Please read it silently to yourself and look up at me when you're finished.
Yes, what's your question?
Right. At the council's request, please accept this as a formal letter in support of the council's decision to grant the waiver to Mr. McMichael so that he may continue to serve as an investigator with my office.
My recollection would be, based on what you said, that sounds like what I wrote, but the letter would be the highest and best evidence of what I actually said.
So I want to talk a little bit about what we might call the Tom Jump letter. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I know of the letter to Tom Jump from Mr. Barnhill in the Waycross Circuit, yes.
Now,
If that's the one you're referring to.
I'm putting up on the screen State's Exhibit number 5. Do you recall seeing this?
Yes.
So I want to direct your attention to the first paragraph under Dear Captain Jump. Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay. The first sentence says, my office received the Arbery autopsy report. And then in brackets, it says dated 4/1/2020, yesterday, and I've reviewed it yesterday and this morning. Do you see that?
Yes.
Okay. And you indicated as well during your direct testimony that you had a conversation with Mr. Barnhill on 4/2, correct?
Yes.
All right. And that lasted approximately 32 minutes,
Yes.
correct? And after that phone call for 32 minutes on Thursday, this was sent to Tom Jump the next day, correct?
The conversation with George Barnhill was on Thursday morning after the Brunswick News article came out. At that point, he had not seen an autopsy report. he talked to me for about 30 minutes, and we talked a long time about, at this point, we were talking, and a lot of this was, I mean, if you had a relationship with George, there wasn't a short conversation. And he was talking about what they were doing in the Waycross circuit with respect to court. And there had been an outbreak of COVID. At the time, we were calling it coronavirus, but there had been an outbreak over in Albany, and we were talking about what was going on at a hospital in Albany, and it had spread from a funeral, and he was explaining to me all the measures he was doing to keep his staff, because they were government employees, working, and that private attorneys over in Waycross were really suffering because of the COVID and not being able to go to court. So a lot of the conversation was that. And of course, I advised him of what was in the Brunswick News. And that's when he told me that the autopsy was out. I did not know that it was done. He told me at that point it was done. And as a result of that, I contacted someone in my office. I believe it might have been Liberty, but it could have been someone upstairs in my office to contact the crime lab so that he could access and look at that. He told me, the gist of it was, I'm just waiting to see that autopsy report or I can move forward on this case. And that was something I thought was good for him to be able to get the autopsy and move forward with what he was going to do on the case. I never discussed anything about the case on him other than me getting the autopsy report. The letter that came out actually was emailed to Tom Jump somewhere around 5 or 6 o'clock on Friday afternoon. And that was about the time that George Barnhill, the son, called me and told me about this Justice League post and Bobby Worthy, and that his father was getting out of the case. And that's when I started making phone calls to the chief of police and to McMichael about getting additional protection at their house. I didn't know the letter was emailed that Friday afternoon until I saw it later. And I actually printed it out and read it that Monday morning was the first time I read it.
Okay. So just a moment ago, I had asked you whether you had a call with Mr. Barnhill on April 2nd that lasted 32 minutes, and then this was sent via email the next day on April 3rd. Is the answer yes or no?
The answer is yes.
Okay. So you also indicated as well that you've had multiple contacts with Greg McMichael in this case, correct?
I didn't really speak with him other than to call him the night after the murder and to when he called me after I had qualified for election and we talked a little bit about the elections. Those were my only two communications with him until April 3rd. And everything with him with respect to April 3rd forward had to do with what was going on the internet, what was going on with people calling his son's work, and what was going on actually over there in that neighborhood.
Now, with those contacts with Greg McMichael, you didn't record any of those, correct?
No,
Okay. You didn't take any contemporaneous notes or anything like that on the phone calls, nothing like that?
no,
On any of them, did you stick it on speakerphone and have somebody sit with you?
no,
Okay. So those phone calls between you and Greg McMichael remain between you and Greg McMichael and nobody else. Is that fair to say?
I'm telling you what happened on the calls. That's what happened.
All right. Now, let me take you back a little bit to the timeline. So the shooting occurs on February 23rd, correct?
Yes,
And on February 23rd, did you indicate on direct, and correct me if I'm wrong, you indicated on direct that you realized that you were going to have some sort of conflict here because Greg McMichael was involved. Am I correct?
I knew immediately that we were not going to be involved with anything that came from the case. Yes.
Okay. And it's your testimony that the next day you went into the office to handle the grand jury stuff involving John Powell, right?
I was in my office. The grand jury was actually going on down here. I was not in the grand jury. I had other attorneys in the grand jury, but I was on the third floor lining up witnesses to testify. That's what I was doing.
All right. And at that moment, true testimony, that's when you got with someone in your office to begin drafting the letter. Is that what you said?
No, it was that afternoon. There were police officers, many of the witnesses for the grand jury against the police chief were police officers that had come forward to my office with attorneys with information. And so I had those attorneys up there and I had police officers up there. And I also was on the phone getting permission for other people to come and testify from their law enforcement. One of my phone calls that day was to the ATF so that we could get permission from the feds for an ATF agent to testify. All of that was going on that day. And it was sometime in the afternoon. My mind was not, after connecting Mr. Barnhill up with the Glenn County Police, my mind was not on that. And it really did not go back to that until sometime that afternoon in the break room up there where I heard those officers talking about Travis McMichael had almost gotten killed.
And so who did you ask to draft the letter?
At that point, I mentioned to Vicki that we needed to do a conflict letter to the Attorney General on the case. She had that on her computer as far as the form to send something up there, and I just asked her to do it. It does not surprise me that she did not get it done that day because we were doing a lot of other things that day, but her office was right next to mine upstairs, and I asked her to do that, yes.
And that wasn't the first time that you had conflicted off a case, correct?
Yes, but what was different about this is typically I lived in Woodbine and my house was in town. I was very close to the courthouse in Woodbine. And most of my administrative things I did, writing checks, sending things to Atlanta, all of that typically happened with my assistant in my office in Camden County. We had all of our mail coming down there. I centralized everything in Camden County because it was closest to my house and I was in that office a lot. So most every conflict letter I would send typically came out of that Woodbine office. And it would have been someone different than Vicki doing it. So it's not a surprise to me that Vicki, I assumed it had gone. Vicki called me in there that Tuesday. It's not a surprise to me that she needed some help with it.
All right. But you had recused your office or disqualified your office before, correct?
Yes, I had.
And you usually did that by letter, correct?
Yes.
And when you did that, you would serve it on the appropriate entity at the time was the Attorney General's office, correct? When Stephen did it, I know he testified early, we sent it by mail. It was always my practice when I did it to email it to David McLaughlin at that address. Any conflict letter I have any recollection of sending up there, that's how we would do it. We would send it his email address. And oftentimes a phone call would follow either from you or from the Attorney General's office, and maybe an informal discussion of who would be good to take the case. Fair?
It was never my practice to call up there. I just sent the letter and expected them to go through their process as far as who they would appoint. If Ms. Crittenden called back, certainly I would speak with her, but it was not ever anything I did to call up there and suggest anyone. Typically, I just sent the letter and said that my office was out.
All right. I'm going to show you what we've marked as number 13. This is a letter that you sent to David McLaughlin with the Attorney General's office in 2015 on a disqualification, correct?
Yes, this was June 5th, 2015, and it was a investigation involving a former clerk of court had a theft, and it was a former employee that was under investigation.
That's your signature at the bottom, correct?
Yes, it is.
That's the letter that you sent, is it not?
Yes, this is states 13.
Or at this time, state tenders into evidence, states exhibit number 13.
No, sir.
Thank you.
Everybody's still okay? Okay.
want to direct your attention to the first paragraph. Can you see it?
Yes.
Okay. Now, as you indicated, the letter indicates that there's a case that needs to be investigated involving allegations of theft and forgery against a person named Larry Morton, correct?
Yes.
You indicated no arrest had been made at the time,
Correct.
and that the case is currently being reviewed by the GBI's forensic financial auditors in Atlanta, correct?
Yes.
All right. In the next paragraph, you indicate that you've advised Agent Smith. Now, Agent Smith is with the GBI, right?
Yes.
That my office would be referring the case to the Attorney General, and she is preparing to brief the newly assigned prosecutor on the case. You indicated that in the letter, right?
Yes.
And you indicate that you've also spoken with Chuck Spahas at PAC regarding the case, correct?
Yes.
I'm now approaching you.
If I could address that letter first. This happened in 2015. Was you probably read about in the newspaper. There was a
Judge, I'm going
million.
to object to non-responsive.
I think I can.
She can explain any answer that she gives.
The clerk at the time was Lola Jamsky. She is since deceased, but it was prior to the new clerk coming in. There was a theft of $1 million+ at the clerk's office here in Glenn County. And my office had been actively involved in the investigation of that, as well as I had met with Agent Smith several times. We had gone.
All right, guys, we have 2 hours and 46 minutes. I have to stop this live because I have to get up in the morning and I do not want to be late. So we will continue with this on tomorrow at the same spot. So I will see you guys tomorrow. What I wanted to tell you guys is a new case that I'm doing. I actually know the defendant. Oh, I got a lot to tell you about this case. That's why I'm going to do this case, because I was shocked. And I got to give you my little story about this individual. Oh my God. But anyway, you guys have a great night. I'll see you guys tomorrow. We'll continue this on tomorrow. Okay? Tomorrow. I see you guys tomorrow. Good night, everybody.
Thank you for watching the infamous Sylvia channel, where laughter and fun make up our panel. Together we build this digital spree. We appreciate you and our growing family. With minds by our side and chat flowing free in this online space. It's just you and me. We laugh until tears roll down like the rain. In this virtual world, you ease all my pains. We're a family, not just a show. Every click and comment makes us grow. Minds and chat, keeping the vibe so right. Together we shine like stars in the night. We cherish the moments, the highs and lows, from the latest gossip to stories untold. You're more than a viewer, you're part of the crew in this space of ours. It's all because of you. This digital world where emotion is shared, every post and reaction showing we care. The love is real in this virtual domain. With every sign, enjoys what we'll gain. We're a family, not just a show. shine like stars in the night. We're a family, not just a show. Every click and comment makes us grow. Mars in check, keeping the vibe so right. Together we shine like stars in the night. This digital world where emotion is shared, every post and reaction showing we care. The love is real in this virtual domain. With every sign, enjoys what we'll gain. We're a family, not just a show. Every click and comment makes us grow. Mars in check, keeping the vibe so right.